Hey, this is Amy with Flower Moxie, and today I'm gonna build a tropical bouquet, and I already have spicy armpits about it because I don't get to build tropical bouquets often. So we're gonna work our way through this. I'm not gonna be like a smooth operator, but we will get through it together. It kind of feels like I'm like a hairstylist and somebody's come in and asked for a perm. I'm like, I can do it, but it's gonna take a minute. First, let's talk about mechanics when it comes to tropical bouquets. You can't build a tropical bouquet unless you're an expert, which I'm not and you're not, just freestyling it with a hand build. Because things are so big and so linear, you're just not gonna be able to get all the product that you need in that bouquet to create a good sized bridal bouquet. So I'm gonna show you two different offerings and I'll tell you the pros and the cons. The first one is the Euro holder. So I have a video where I'm building like a cascade with this. All right, here's the pro. I say that this is probably the easiest thing to build a tropical in. Basically, you cut your stem, you put glue on it and you stick it in. You can build it like in a nice foundational vase, you can walk away from it, but there's quite a few cons that come with the Oasis holder. So the first one is the cost. This is, I can't remember the price, but this is around like $15 to $20, so it's not cheap. Secondly, I wrote all this down. You can't readjust things. Once you put something into foam, and especially if you put glue, maybe you can pull it out once and adjust the placement slightly. But if you start just repositioning things, you're gonna break down the integrity of your foam and then this thing will be worthless to you. The third reason is, or the third con is that you have to use floral glue. You have to glue in every single thing because at your wedding, you're gonna be like moving this around and you don't want things to fall out. So I hate this stuff. It definitely works. I definitely have to use it when I use a Euro holder, but this stuff is really syrupy, very sticky. It's hard to get off your hands, so I don't love it. The other con is it gets very weighty. So you soak this thing in water, and then once you add all of your florals, it becomes extremely heavy. And so that gets really tiring for a bride at the end of the day. And then lastly, or actually there's two more. Hydration is an issue. Although this is wet foam, it provides some amount of hydration. It's only about 1 inch or 1/2 inch thick. So honestly, I don't feel like it gives enough hydration. So if you were to use this, you would make it the day before, and that night you would come in with your kitchen sink sprayer and re-wet this foam, and then the next morning on your wedding day, you would want to re-wet this foam again. Especially in the summer when it's hot, the flowers will kind of struggle bust. They won't get quite enough water. And when I use these, I always come back with Crowning Glory, which is that fresh floral flower spray that extends the life, holds in the moisture. And lastly, Oasis foam is not eco-friendly, it's not biodegradable, so I try to avoid it as much as possible. Okay, but it is easy to build in. So if you're a newbie, I can understand wanting to use this first. A second option, and this is what I'm gonna teach you today, is building it with chicken wire. And so what I've done is I've created a tube and I've created it hollow, and I'm really good about making sure it's clean, and that's what you want to do. You don't want like a rat's nest because that will be hard to build in. I cut off any spikes or I tuck them inside the tube, and this lets me create the shape. And for all the reasons that this was a con, this solves. So this is lightweight, it's eco-friendly, you can reuse it. I don't know if it's recyclable, but I'm assuming it is. The cost, it hardly costs anything. We sell a big roll, 12 by 48, for I think around $5 to $6. So you can create this, and then you can fill up your centerpieces. And then hydration isn't an issue. So the stems will be coming out, and so you'll be able to put this in a vase of water. Here's the con with this, and I feel like there's only really one con, is it's hard to get started, to be honest. When you first drive the stem in, and you'll see me like fumble my way through it, it's like at first you hold on to this little cage, and then you're also holding on to the stem. Now, if you stick with it and you just keep adding your product, don't get stressed out if it's not looking the way you want it to. once you drive stems in, it creates like a really nice support system. So it's just hard on the onset, but let's get started. Okay, we're gonna get started. Spicy armpits and all. So when tropicals, just like I showed you in the tropical centerpiece, you always wanna start with the big items, find the placement for those because they're anchor pieces and they're very visually weighty. So I'm going to come in, and Monstera stems are typically longer. This has already been cut because we use this in a styled shoot. So it's a little bit short for this video, but yours won't be this short. I want to place this guy kind of spraying off to the side, and then I'm going to want something coming down. That's the shape that I'm going for. You can go more linear, like more horizontal. What I don't want to do is I don't want to get extremely vertical because I don't want it getting up into her like neckline and like by her necklace. So I'm coming in with those heavier items. I should have stripped this beforehand. So this is the part that's a little bit tricky to start with. And I don't care that that's twisting because like I said, we'll get more stability as we go. Okay, so I hold it away from my body. I'm looking at it. This is definitely gonna have a front and a back. So I figured out where those two anchor pieces are going to be, and I'll see if I can come in with this Monstera leaf. It might be visually like too much. Here's where the awkward perm part comes into play. I think it's a bit too much. I can add it later. I'm gonna start with this. So now I'm gonna come in with just greens. Okay, so I'm going with my structure and I'm coming in with some pittosporum, and I'm just gonna kind of start greening it, and we're not gonna get stressed about every single placement, okay? We just wanna create some stability and then we can adjust from there. Side note, I've sprayed these down with leaf shine, which I only recommend for like a lot of leaves, a lot of tropical things, very heavy greens, but don't ever spray these on flowers or like eucalyptus, or you'll just have a lot of weirdness. So this is emerald palm. And I'm already, just with placing a few items, I'm already at the point where I'm just holding the stem and this egg or this cage is just setting on top of my hand. I have a mirror that I can sit and look. And I'm just gonna come in with some greens. These greens are cut a little bit too short because I used them yesterday for a styled shoot. So glad I thought in advance to save product. I've got some sword fern that I like. So right now I'm just thinking about the line and the shape that I want to create. And this is going to be a little taller and we're going to have it spilling out. And see how it's holding this structure? If I was hand building these, we would lose this shape so fast. And this is why this chicken wire is so important. I'm also going to have it, I'm gonna start building it to where it's spilling out so it's like more three-dimensional. I don't want it to be flat. Speaking of perms, I do want to tell you that my mom started perming my hair when I was 2 years old. 2. Parenting like the 80s. And when I asked her later, I was like, you know, why'd you feel the need to do that? And she's like, well, I mean, your hair was so flat. It was just had no body. Yeah, thanks. So I like this Robolini palm spraying off the side. I don't want to clutter this nice shape of this Monstera leaf. So if I were to come back, see how that would ruin that line? We're layering things in, but we don't want to mess up these really nice lines that these tropicals create. So now that I have a little bit of structure, a little stability, I feel like I see where I'm going or where this bouquet is going, I'm gonna start adding in my heavier floral pieces. So don't come in with the delicates. We don't do that until the end. So I have this really big Cymbidium orchid, and that's gonna be my statement piece. I also brought in this pink ice protea. I may use it, I may not. It's super heavy. I really only recommend one. I built one yesterday that had two and felt like my arm was gonna break. So I'm trying to figure out the placement. It's nice to kind of hold it. And I'm probably gonna cut this back one off because I just think it's gonna have some awkwardness. You can save that and give that to your photographer. They love flat lay pictures. And see how I can come in at this like really nice angle. This would be very, very hard if you were hand building. You can just find the hole that works for you. So I might have to cut this down more. These are so pretty, but they are hard to work with because they don't have any flexibility. There we go. Okay, I like where this is at. Okay, that's gonna sit awkwardly down there for now. We'll fix it at the end. And let's see if I can get away with putting this guy in. It may be too much. So I don't think I like something so prominent just directly in front. I want to position a little bit differently. So I want it kind of coming down. So we have this anchor piece coming slightly up. I'll adjust this at the end. And we have this anchor protea going with this line. So now that I have these real heavy pieces in, and not everything is where I want it to be, but I'm not stressing about that because we're still in this building process. I can adjust at the end. It's really, I say that all the time because especially as a new florist, I would get really flustered when I would start to build something and it wasn't looking the way I wanted it to look. And oftentimes I would just put it down, take it apart, start all over. Well, that wasn't really good for my confidence and it wasn't good for the product. So it's best to just relax, keep focusing on your placement, and then know that you can pull it together and adjust it at the end. But don't let yourself get your panties in a wad because it's just gonna psych you out. Okay, so I've got some greenery, I'm filling it out. The one thing about this chicken wire, there was another con, is you have to hide the mechanics at the end, but really that's essentially just shoving in a bunch of greenery. And it's not that hard to do. Let's see if, this is an aspidistra leaf. And I think I like that spraying out. Let's see if we can double down. I'm always like, more is best. And then I put it in and I'm like, too much, too much. Let's see if we can layer this leaf in without breaking our line. I like it for now. Okay, I'm gonna place some more greenery just to kind of fill out the back, and then I'll get going with the blooms. Okay, now I'm ready to start backfilling with my flowers. So I've got these really nice dendrobium orchids, and they're very linear, so they're going to be an item that's going to spray out a little bit more as well. So I'm still following those same lines. And that's why it's good to start with that, is it gives you a guide of, you know, what do I place next? Well, let's try to find things and follow that same linear shape. All right, I like that. I think for the recipe, I'm pretty much doing tropical minimalism. If you are looking at our packages, I'm just adding in like a few extras. And my monstera's kind of facing downwards. Let's see if I can readjust him a little bit. Might have to do that at the end. His stem was a little bit short, so that's part of the problem. So I have a little alabaster garden rose, and I'm gonna sink this guy down in the middle. And because it's so weighty, I wanna figure out, did I drop one? Probably. Where else I can place it. I don't want them in concentration together because I don't want it to just look like a white mass of roses in the center. Now we're gonna come in with our more delicate items, and this is our Lisianthus. I really love Lizzie because it has like such a pretty shape to it. And the stems are really thin, which is nice because after a while you start running out of like chicken wire real estate. And so it's easy to drive those thinner stems in. And this is why we want to wait till the end, is this is just a little bit more delicate. So my hand's pretty relaxed. I'm just holding on to the stems. It's nice because if I don't like a placement of a flower, I can pull it out and figure out another angle that it can glide in. Where if we were working with foam, we wouldn't want to adjust it too much. I do have this anthurium. I think that with this orchid and with the protea, this will be a little bit too much. This is one that we're selling, it's fake. And I just sell the fake ones because the real ones aren't really great for DIY. They're really fussy about the temperature, and they're long lasting if they're in perfect condition, but I just feel that they can brown easily, and I don't want to stress a DIY bride out. So if there's something that you want that we're not selling, it's good to just email us and ask. There's probably a reason. Let's see the shape of this. So I can change my hand placement. I can pretty much completely let go of it, and it's still keeping its shape. I want a little bit more height. This monstera leaf got pushed down. So I'm gonna try to build this looking in the mirror. It might be that we come in with another one. I think it's this rose. It's giving me grief. Let's see if we can layer this in. See how these guys can kind of have strange angles? There we go. Let's see if I can change the placement slightly of this larger monstera. I think it would be easier if the stem wasn't so short. That will teach me to not set aside product. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm liking the shape, so I need to fill this in and maybe have a little bit more spray. So I'll do that at the very end. But let me fill in the center. Okay. Let's come back with this rose. I like how he's elevated. I don't want things to sink in, but again, these can easily be adjusted. So now I can pull things up and it will stay in place. So if it starts sinking on you, you can fix that at the end because you'll just have a lot more stability. These ranunculus that I got in, they're pretty short stemmed, so I'm gonna have to probably concentrate them closer to the base and sink them in more, just because these guys didn't come with long stem this time. I don't love how I have these two, like they're on different planes, but I feel like they're a little bit close together. So I want to drive something in right here to break up those two roses. And I might be able to throw this dendrobium through. But those are the things that I look for when I'm building. If things are on the same plane, if I have too much of a cluster of one type of flower, I want to throw something in the middle to break that up visually. Hard to do this in front of the table. So yeah, I feel like that aspidestra leaf that we considered, so I'm going to turn this around and look at it because it's easier for me to build. Remember how I was talking about maybe we want another aspidestra coming out? This is about the time where I would decide that. I like it. And this is why it's important to get that chicken wire as clean as you can when you build that tube, is you do run out of real estate. So if you have like a big mass of, balled up chicken wire, it's gonna be really hard to drive those items in. Okay, I'm gonna get back from behind this table, look at it in the mirror, and make a few adjustments. Damn, this one's so hard. Like I built them so much easier when I wasn't being filmed. Okay, that was about 20-30 minutes of a lot of sweating and readjusting. But when you can take your time with it and you look in the mirror and you just go slowly, then you will easily get it built. So at the very end, you will go back in with your loose greenery and fill in these holes so you won't see it. And then you will cut your stems relatively short. And I'll show you why in just a moment. But you're probably asking, how do you tie this off? So the best way is to find your most sturdy stem and get a rubber band. And you're just looping this rubber band around one stem. And then you're wrapping it around the entire bouquet. And then if you can, hook back up on that original stem that you put the rubber band on. A zip tie is going to be too harsh because you have too many gaps and not one point of intersection like you would if you hand built it. So this is gonna hold it in place. You don't have to change your hand placement much when you're putting it on. It's easier than tape. And so for time's sake, I'm not going to fill in the part that you can see, but in real life for a wedding, I absolutely would. And so now that I have this on, I'm still gonna cut this maybe a little bit shorter. And the reason why you wanna cut it short, it cuts down on the weight, but on tropicals, she's gonna wanna hold it like different ways. This will allow her different posing with the photographer. She can hold it more like a baby. She can hold it right towards her body and tip it down in different directions. If you have a lot of stem, it's gonna get in the way, it's gonna touch her dress, which is something that I don't prefer. So, everybody's rushing right out to buy the Euro holder instead of the chicken wire. If you have any questions, let us know. We would love to hear any feedback. This takes a little bit of time and it feels a little bit daunting at first, like I talked about, but this chicken wire is reusable, so get your chicken wire in advance. Go to the grocery store, forage large branches, anything kind of heavy and weighty and awkward, and do some practice runs. You'll feel a lot more comfortable with it. I think that you'll probably struggle less than I did because I was using things that had already been cut. When you have a little bit more stem length to hold on to, it makes it a little bit easier. If you have any questions, let us know, and thank you so much.